cool and drizzly day, a mammoth crowd will not be prevented from turning out at Portland International Raceway. Welcome to round 9 of the PPG Car World Series, the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200.
IndyCar is no stranger to close finishes, especially in the IRL era where ovals had photo finishes almost every single race. But the closest finish in the kart series did not happen at an oval at all, and it happened at a track that is still on the IndyCar calendar to this day, the Portland International Raceway. And not only that, the 1997 Budweiser G.I. Joe 200 also remains the closest 2-car and 3-car finish in IndyCar history on a road course. It was cold, wet, and rainy, but Scott Pruitt would lead the field to green with Gilles de Ferran alongside.
Look at the spray as they come down to take the green flag.
And you can't see anything back there. Let me tell you, those guys cannot tell where the other car is back there.
Coming up the driver's right, looked like Dario Franchitti was looking to make up some places. Ooh, we've got cars off onto the grass.
And a little while there, he's trying to get himself back on the track.
Gently on the throttle to bring the car up to speed. Look at that spray, and we've got someone tagged from behind. I think that is Dario Franchitti.
What happened was the car next to him looked like moved over on him. He had nowhere to go.
Up front, no problem for Scott Pruitt as he leaves the field. That's Gilles de Ferran directly behind him, and Pruitt opening up a couple of quick car lengths.
And let's not forget, he's on Firestone tires.
Now there's Mauricio Gugelmin in the red and white car with a bright orange helmet, challenging his Brazilian countryman Gilles de Ferran for second place as they move on to the backstretch. Oh, wheel to wheel, Bobby Rahal is off. This is down in the west end, the turns 3, 4, and 5 complex. That's turn 5 just behind him. He's off on the grass, and the grass is absolutely super saturated. We've had over an inch of rain here in the last 12 hours at Portland.
Despite the insane amount of spray on the opening lap, the initial start of the race was pretty good, with very minor contact and a couple of guys getting off on the grass, with Bobby Rahal getting the worst of it, spinning off into the grass. Scott Pruitt got a nice jump on the field and would begin to stretch his lead out, and he would get even a bigger advantage when second place Gilles de Ferran ends up spinning through the grass at the exit of the first chicane, which by the way is not counted as a corner on this track, which is kind of weird. But he would get back onto the racing surface without much issue and continue on in the race.
Now here was the view from Gilles de Ferran's car as he struggled to keep traction.
Now see, he hit that surface change right there. He went from concrete to asphalt, and when he hit that, it broke the back end loose.
Similar problems for Bobby Rahal. This was his view as he went off.
Different spot of the track. He's tippy-toeing around there. Stands on the gas, gets it sideways, and he is gone.
You can hear the revs as the rear wheels break loose. That's the kind of day we're going to have here at Portland. Stand by for more live from Portland International Raceway.
The first yellow flag of the race would fall on lap 11, officially for debris, as the broadcast was away at a commercial break. And during the commercial break before that, Mauricio Gugelmin took the lead of the race. And when the broadcast came back from commercial, the field was ready to resume racing, despite the conditions.
Mauricio Gugelmin leads the field off the corner. Juan Fangio is back out on the racetrack after an extended pit stop. You see him, well, you don't see him very well, but he's in there. And he is 3 laps down. Jimmy Vasser challenged by
Michael Andretti, I think.
Michael Andretti went by. There's Alex Zanardi with Dario Franchitti, or as Scott Pruitt calls him, Franchetti.
See, they're still battling side by side.
See the rain light on the car ahead. Useful some of the time, but when the spray gets this thick, it's hard to spot that rain light.
Well, Bob, you have to get in. The light is on permanently, but you have to get very close to the car to see it when the spray is that bad. It's a very bright light, but it really helps you only when you're up close. See how gingerly they're on the throttle, just trying to squeeze it on there. Whoa!
Patrick Carpentier goes
Keep
around.
going, keep going, Patrick.
He has been very unhappy with the balance of this car all weekend. He seems to have found his groove on the oval tracks. But here on the road course, where you might think he would be very comfortable, the Alumax Bettenhausen Motorsports team has been struggling to get a balance in the race car.
Another pretty decent restart despite the heavy spray and treacherous conditions out there. Patrick Carpentier found a little bit of trouble and went for a spin. He did a complete 360 while staying on the track and continuing on. But this restart would be short-lived as they would only complete 3 laps before the yellow flag would come out once again, and the rain being the reason for the yellow. During this yellow, some drivers elected to hit pit road, while others like leader Mauricio Gugelmin would stay out on the racetrack. This yellow would also be pretty lengthy of 8 laps, and some of the teams were calling for the officials to stop the race and put out the red flag. During this yellow, Bob Barsha was able to sit down with CART VP of Communications Ron Richards, and he explained kind of what was happening, as he wanted to keep the cars out on the track to try to minimize the standing water out on the racetrack, as certain areas throughout the track had standing water, and that was the whole reason that they threw the yellow in the first place. But after this heavy rain shower, conditions looked to be improving, so the officials were planning on throwing the green flag as soon as possible.
All right, thank you, Gary. Mauricio Gugelmin leads. Scott Pruitt and Alex Zanardi. That's P.J. Jones in one of Dan Gurney's All-American Racers Toyota Reynard, second in line. He moves to the outside to let the quicker cars come through. P.J. now a lap down. Restart on lap 25 of 98 scheduled, and once again the rooster tail rises to the dark skies over Portland.
Look at that cloud in the background. I can tell you, I've been there before. It's not a comfortable feeling when you can't see.
Dance with the devil in every sense of the term. Christian Fittipaldi, Raul Boisel just behind him, and Al Unser Jr., and then DeFerrin being challenged by, that was Parker Johnstone, for whom this is very much a home race. He's built a new home this year in Rush Prairie, Washington, just across the Columbia River on the Washington side. Although half the residents of his old hometown, Redmond, Oregon, are down here watching him.
And once again, another restart without any chaos, despite the large rooster tails coming from this extremely wet track. And this time, no one even went for a spin or got off into the grass. And if they did, the broadcast didn't catch it. On lap 30, Mauricio Gugelmin would come in for a green flag pit stop, and Alex Zanardi would take over the lead of the race, as his team would have a phenomenal pit stop and he would beat Mauricio Gugelmin out of the pit. Just 2 laps later though, the third full course caution of the race would come out, when the 34 car of Christian Danner, driving for Dale Coyne, would come to a stop on the racetrack with a transmission issue. Now I know I've been complimenting these drivers with how well every restart has gone, so it's only a matter of time before the chaos starts, and this was that restart as Alex Zanardi leads the field back to green.
Spin down there. I think that was Scott Pruitt. Scott Pruitt, I believe, spun, trying to get a restart.
Lots of room out there to take evasive action. And the green has come out, so we are back racing once again, and that's the worst news of all for the spinner.
That will only be a local yellow there. Look at them all funnel down in there. Boy, up over the curve, really forcing everybody inside. Al Unser Jr. back to the left of your screen, that bright red and white. Look, he drove a car right off. Oh, they couldn't, they got hooked up. They drove a car right in there. That is Dario Franchitti.
Franchitti and Unser Jr. off in the festival curves, and the yellows are back out.
The first major incident of the day, Dario Franchitti and Al Unser Jr. get tangled up, putting Franchitti into the tire barrier, ending both of their days, bringing out the full course caution once again. And right before that, Scott Pruitt, trying to put the power down too early on the restart, ended up spinning out, but thankfully he spun right out of harm's way, and the flagman elected to wave the green flag, as no other major incident came from Scott Pruitt's spin.
Al Unser Jr., they look hooked. See, they're hooked. They're trying to accelerate. Their wheels are hooked. They've got nowhere to go. Now they separate them.
Spearing into the tires went Dario Franchitti, and there's Al Unser Jr. walking past Franchitti's car, headed back to the pits. Now there is Scott Pruitt, who spun at the head of the straightaway, apparently stalled the car, but did not hit anything. How did he get there? Let's go back and take another look as they came
right
off
here's
turn
his
9.
car right there, and you can see him. He's trying to put the power down on the road. Just got it sideways and kept going. See the wheels still spinning there, and then he stalls it.
Under this yellow, all the leaders would stay out on the racetrack, and Alex Zanardi would lead the field back to green on lap 39.
Green flag, we are back underway. You ride with Michael Andretti. Paul Tracy and Mark Blundell, wheel to wheel. Andretti just behind that battle. Then Greg Moore, Brian Herta, and Alex Ribeiro. Moore runs 7, Herta 8, Ribeiro 9, Parker Johnstone is 10.
This green flag run would be pretty short of only 4 laps, as Scott Pruitt would find trouble again in the exact same spot, and I swear this is not deja vu. Scott Pruitt managed to replicate his first spin and would stall the car again, bringing out the yellow flag.
Same spot, you just see his car right there. It almost looks like exactly what he did before. Spun around and stopped at the same spot and stalled.
During this yellow flag, pit road would have some takers from guys back in the field, but all the leaders, including Alex Zanardi, would stay out on the racetrack.
Here at Portland, we are ready to go green. Alex Zanardi leads the Pac West teammates. Where have we seen this before? Mauricio Gugelmin and Mark Blundell running nose to tail.
See him getting over in that spray, cooling off the tires a little bit. The track is starting to dry.
Michael Andretti with Paul Tracy just ahead. Parker Johnstone down the inside.
Despite the improving track conditions, this restart would only last 1 lap before the full course caution would wave once again due to an incident at the end of the front straightaway. This one involved Brian Herta, PJ Jones, and rookie Galter Salez. But unfortunately, we would not get a replay of this incident. During this yellow, Alex Zanardi's team was debating on whether to pit or not, as they actually had slicks up on the wall, but then quickly changed to the rain tires before deciding to just stay out on the racetrack and wait a little bit longer to see what conditions are going to do. Second place Mauricio Gugelmin's team made the same decision. Brian Herta's team, on the other hand, who was just involved in that accident, decided to be the first to gamble and put slick tires on the car. As the field was approaching green, Brian Herta was trying to catch up to the field, and things didn't go quite as they hoped.
He's going to test those slicks under acceleration on this damp racetrack. Alex Zanardi gets on the hammer early in turns 8 and 9. Mo Gugelmin right there with him. Blundell, will anybody spin it coming off this corner?
Well, this is the third restart, and Zanardi's always tried to jump him. Brian Herta there, he's with those slicks. Look at that. We'll go to yellow at that position, I would think. It's right coming onto the back straightaway.
Restart on lap 52 of 98 scheduled, but we are less than 35 minutes from the 2-hour mark. This has not been declared a timed race yet. Though it looks fairly certain that it will be one. No yellow flag showing for Herta off the racetrack on slip. There is Herta. Looking at the oncoming traffic. Kart safety team to help him refire. That is a pretty exposed position right there, considering how wet that grass is.
Well, he's the only one on slicks. Look, he just spun it off there. Now watch him when he hits the grass. And then the car, look how fast it just keeps going. It's the worst feeling in the world when you hit that grass, because it's just like it accelerates like being on ice.
And once again, this green flag run would be short-lived, as this time PJ Jones, who was also involved in that previous accident with Brian Herta, would spin on the racetrack and stall right in the middle of it, forcing the officials to throw the caution. The complexion of this race would change a little bit under this yellow flag, as leader Alex Zanardi decided to hit pit road for a pit stop, and the team put wet tires on the car again, while second place Mauricio Gugelmin and 9 other drivers decided to stay out on the racetrack, holding out a little bit longer until it was dry enough to come in and put slick tires on.
Pits on your left, grandstands on your right. Here comes the safety car in under the Goodyear Bridge. There is Mo Gugelmin leading teammate Mark Blundell. 1 and 2, just as they were 2 weeks ago in Detroit. Now they go to driver's right, looking for water for those tires. And look who's third, as he was 2 weeks ago in Detroit, Greg Moore.
Well, look who's in fourth, is local favorite, Parker Johnstone.
West teammates able to pull away from Moore. You see that drying line.
That band of the line around the track is drying out. But boy, I can tell you this, if you did go on slicks and it is dry, just off of that line is very treacherous.
On lap 64, Paul Tracy, who was charging his way to the front of the field, would be the first one to come in and take the gamble to put slick tires on, as there is now a defined drying line on the racetrack. But as you would see, things would go pretty similar to how it went for Brian Herta.
Look at that, he's trying to put the power down. Whoa, he came out there high. He's got to be very careful, but look, he's
BJ straight lining the chicane.
now what he can do, he can come up there and wait. He cannot improve his position. They'll hold him there for a second and let him go back out on the track.
Oh, Paul Tracy goes around, heads up.
Look out, through those are just cardboard. Oh, that one's not cardboard that he's going to. Look at that. He's trying to get it back on the track. Keep it running. See him lighten up the tires, see him spinning. That was very good to keep it running, but look how wet those tires are.
Shining in the water on the grass. Here comes Scott Pruitt.
See, one of the problems that they have too is not only did he go out on slicks, but those tires are stone cold and they've got no heat in them. He's trying to get heat up into the tires.
Not a good gamble for Paul Tracy, but his team kind of was in a box, as he would have to pit here no matter what because he was very low on fuel, as he hasn't been on pit road since lap 18 in the race. During a commercial break on lap 66, leader Mauricio Gugelmin would come in and make a pit stop. He would end up putting slick tires on his car here and would really struggle to get up to speed. Although the track is drying rapidly and the dry line is pretty big, the main issue was the cooler temperatures made it very hard for these drivers to get these tires up to temperature, so they would really have to tiptoe around the track until those tires got up to their optimal racing temperature. But Mauricio Gugelmin wasn't the only one finding trouble, as Paul Tracy would go for another spin. And on the very next lap, Gugelmin's teammate Mark Blundell, who was running in second, would make his pit stop and put slick tires on the car, while Galter Salas had to pull over due to a fire in his race car. He was on the exit of the first turn chicane and the crews were able to put the fire out pretty quickly. You would think that this would bring out a full course caution, but indeed it wouldn't, as his car was slightly offline, and that was good enough for the officials to not throw a full course caution. Slicks were the right call at this moment as well, because once you got those tires up to temperature, drivers on slicks were putting in way faster lap times than the guys that were still out on wets. The race, however, was switched to a timed event with a maximum time of 2 hours, so this would end up putting the race 20 laps short of its original distance. Because of that, Gilles de Ferran, who is leading the race, his team made the strategy call to stay out on those wet tires. Despite doing way slower lap times than the guys that were on slicks, his team was hoping that they would be just fast enough to hold on to the lead until the time limit expired, giving them the win. But at this point, the track was very dry, and even the offline sections where they would go to try to get moisture in the tires, especially along the front straightaway, was pretty much completely dry. With under 5 minutes to go, things would get a little chaotic, with guys on different tire strategies, as Parker Johnstone would go for a spin but keep going, and Alex Zanardi would end up going off in the chicane and essentially shortcutting the course. But this allowed Mark Blundell to get through, who was absolutely flying on those slick tires. As the field approaches the white flag, Mark Blundell has moved himself into second place, and to give you an idea of how much faster he is than Gilles de Ferran, with 4 laps to go, he was more than 17 seconds behind. But now, right on the tail of leader Gilles de Ferran, with 1 lap to go.
Does Blundell have time to run him down?
I think he can close the gap, but he's got to be able to get by him. He's got to be able to make that pass.
Keep in mind, they've got this very broad front straightaway that Blundell can use if he has to. Fittipaldi, using that left foot braking he's not familiar with, lights up the front tires. Blundell is right there with de Ferran. 2 weeks ago in Detroit, Blundell missed out on his opportunity for his first career victory when he ran out of fuel with one corner to go in the race. And now he has another chance here in Portland. looking left and right around DeFerrin. It's a much narrower racetrack because he is on those slick tires.
Not only that, it's a narrower racetrack because look at Gilles DeFerrin knows it's the last lap. He is not going to give him any ground. And it'll be interesting at the end of this straightaway to see what lines Gilles DeFerrin takes. Does he go down the inside and protect his position? Yes, he does.
Blundell looks down the inside. 3 more corners to go, and then he'll have that wide and dry front straightaway. It'll be a drag race on the drag strip here at Portland. Off the corner they come.
Oh, it's going to be a photo finish.
Blundell, here comes Budweiser in third. To the line they come. And Mark Blundell takes the victory in his 22nd career start. The Englishman into the win column in PBG kart competition, getting Gilles DeFerrin on the straightaway. Team owner Bruce McCaw and the team can celebrate after being denied in Detroit. Another look. DeFerrin up top, Blundell in the middle, Budweiser on the bottom. And look at the speed differential as Blundell powers past to the flag right there.
What a finish, as Mark Blundell was able to get it done. Gilles DeFerrin just couldn't hold off long enough on those wet tires on a drying track, but the results gave us the closest finish in kart series history, as well as the closest 3-car finish in series history. And Portland provided the second awesome photo finish right at the line, the other one being in 1986 with Michael and Mario Andretti. I also made a video on that one. I'll link it in the description below. This would end up being Mark Blundell's first career kart series win, and his first professional victory since the 1992 24 Hours of Le Mans. And this victory would kickstart Mark Blundell into 2 more victories throughout the 1997 kart season. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more IndyCar content just like this. That's all for now. Take care, everyone.